The march towards patch 11.2 and the War Within's final showdown is almost here, and today I have an essential update for you. It's really big. This is part of patch 11.17 and it points the way toward Koresh, but there is way more. So let me jog your memory. Do you remember these guys? They're the brokers from the Shadowlands. They're beings of pure energy, organized into cartels. They're constantly getting into trouble, and at the time, they felt like Ethereals, but the connection was never made in-game. And as much as Shadowlands had many very bad things, they were one of the things that I think just about everybody liked. But now Blizzard had confirmed what we all suspected. Venari, one of our favorite characters in that expansion, and Locust Walker know each other. They're actually the same race, at least they were before their planet was destroyed, and the Shadowguard Ethereal want both of them dead. With that knowledge, we get a glimpse into the past, but way bigger, a look into the next major patch and who we will be fighting, as well as the unlikely character that'll bring us there. Here's something neat and mildly disturbing. Chances are if you Google your name, it'll actually appear. People's search sites literally sell your addresses and phone numbers for money, and that's where today's sponsor, Incogni, just got even more powerful. That's because their service already pulls your data off more than 250 data broker sites and keeps it down with continuous rescans. But the new unlimited plan adds a feature called custom removals. Here's how it works. If you spot your info, say some sketchy directory or a business lookup site, you just paste that link into your dashboard and Incogni's privacy team will file the takedown for you. And within about 45 days, it'll be gone. And there's no limit on how many links you can submit. You can just keep firing them in there until your search results are clean. Now, of course, Incogni can't, go to the government and delete you from them. But aside from the likes of that, they let you maximize your legal right to have your data taken down. As an example, whenever I go to my Incogni dashboard, I see that they took me down from People Data Labs. I don't want to have my data on People Data Labs because that sounds sketchy as hell. And if you use my link, incogni.com/Bellular, you'll get 60% off the annual unlimited plan. So clean up your data, keep it clean, and rest easy. Last time we lore walked, Cho told us of Xal'atath's imprisonment within the Blade and the deal that she cut with N'Zoth. This time it's the Ethereals. So, Lorewalker Cho brings us through their history, transporting us back to Outland. We discover Nexus King Shalhadar's desperate quest for revenge, and that long before the Shadowguard, the Voidy Ethereals who try to kill us now, he willingly gave himself to the Void in hopes of becoming a god himself so he could challenge Dimensius, the Void Lord that of course destroyed his homeworld. We even actually get to tangle with a manifestation of, Dimensius himself. Of course, it was just him at a fraction of his actual power, but in that one short quest chain, we discovered the Ethereals were refugees from a world that he devoured, and they went to extreme measures to survive. Measures like breaking into the Afterlife. Joe's story takes a turn when we're suddenly talking about the brokers. Joe suspects there may be a connection between them and the Ethereals, so our next stop is Oribos, where we're reminded the brokers had only just recently found the place. And that is strange for a race who seemingly are natural to the Shadowlands. Turns out, of course, they're not natural to the Shadowlands. Then we head to Tazavesh, where we're shown how the brokers travel the in-between. The in-between being the space between realms, a sort of area that is supposed to be impossible to navigate. The story shifts once again to Venari's refuge in the Maw. But this time, something different is going on. On our way to Korthia, we helped Venari move one of her bags. Originally, when we did that in Shadowlands, this bag contained an anima translocator used for fast travel. But this time, it contained an additional item, and that item is an ethereal cloak. And this is where the lore begins to unravel. Questing on, the story ends, and we're up to date with the Ethereal and Broker context, but there's a connection between them that isn't yet solid. That, though, is when a broker named Omrajula straight up appears in front of us and tells us that Venari needs our help. And just so we're all clear, I'll explain how broker names work. So broker names denote their cartel. As an example, Venari is Nari of Cartel V. Rajula is Rajula of Cartel Ohm. And Cartel Ohm is a new group we hadn't heard of before. Maybe they're working with Venari, maybe they're brokers still focused on Koresh. We don't know just yet. But regardless, he tells us our discussion has drawn Venari's attention and that she has a package for Locust Walker. That alone is huge. Remember, Locust Walker is Illyria's mentor in all things Void. He's a major player introduced in the Legion expansion, and the fact that he knows the already mysterious Venari makes this all the more alluring. Amrajula opens a void portal to Telogris Rift. That's the Void Elf starting area. We step through and are immediately attacked by Shadowguard assassins. Then we hear a familiar voice, that of Venari. Just as she suspected, the Shadowguard were after Locust Walker, which means they're also after her. And that is when they have this short in length, but huge in implication, chat.
Oh, as I suspected, the Shadowguard are after you as well?
I have not seen you since the destruction of our world, as I preferred it.
Such fangs, Locust Walker. You wound me. Yet unfortunate as it may be, it seems we must work together one last time. Come, we have much to discuss. As for you, my capable courier, return to your storyteller with my thanks.
We do as Venari says. Those two characters continue to talk, and I'm sure the contents of their discussion will catapult us to Koresh in patch 11.2. But we don't need those details to immediately know that this is rather huge. Locust Walker and Venari knew each other on Koresh before Koresh fell. We know they once worked together, and Locust Walker is not happy to see her. Now remember how Venari taught us her rules of survival in the Maw? Listen to this. It's what Rule 7 was.
Rule 7. Betrayal is inevitable, even from those close to you. Especially from those close to you.
We found brokers all over the Shadowlands, and they didn't really seem to fit in. They walked between realms, they didn't respect Covenant politics, much like us, and they'd gathered immense wealth, knowledge, and influence. But for what? I mean, it felt like they maybe wanted those things just to be more powerful, to secure their place in the afterlife. But beyond that, it did feel like their society was driving towards something that we never knew, never found out. It honestly felt like a plot hole of the Shadowlands that never would have been addressed. But now it finally is, and this is where Cartel V, Venari's cartel, comes into the picture. So they were chosen to lead an expedition into the Maw, right? And the Maw is supposed to be somewhere where nobody can return from. That's immense risk with an unknown reward, but wider broker society actually thought this was essential enough to sacrifice their own. So what happened is Venari led a team, but over time, one by one, her compatriots died. She was perhaps the cause of those deaths, and that left her the only broker left in the Maw. Of course, we found her refuge during that expansion, and in exchange for her survival skills, we traded her all the Stygia that we collected. This wasn't just a currency, I mean it was to us, but in the lore, Stygia is what remained of souls whenever they had been obliterated in the Maw. So for Venari, this Stygia was a major source of power. Like us, she was hunting for an entrance to Zereth Mortis. But when we eventually got to Zereth Mortis and found the creation catalyst that we now use to make tier sets, well, we found her body. It seemed that she got there but had failed, had died. That is, unless you had the engineering profession, because if you had engineering, you would have the skills to work out that actually this was another ruse, that Venari had in fact faked her own death. But even that wasn't the end of her story. Shortly after the jailer's defeat, she sent us a letter confirming that she used the mountain of Stygia that we had collected to make something at the creation catalyst, some sort of device that let her escape the Shadowlands. Turns out she was just like us. After all the death, betrayal, and Stygia farming, she just wanted to ride out of the Shadowlands. But now it all kind of makes sense. Like all other brokers, she was trapped in the Shadowlands, and if they are going to return to their homeworld Koresh, well, they needed a way to travel the entire cosmos, and it seems that's exactly what she found. Now, I'm not saying Venari did this for her people, right? But there was certainly more going on than met the eye at the time, and what we've seen today is very much confirmation of that now she and Locust Walker are in the world at large and are working together. So now it's time for her to go home, and when she does go there, all she'll find is a world soul fallen to the void. So far, I've discussed so much lore, so let's bring it back to the World Soul Saga, which is this trio of expansions. In patch 10.2.7, titled Darkheart, Xal'atath unleashed her plan. She became a very big, noisy, and obvious character in the lore. She was actually, of course, trying to get our attention, so we would follow her to Khazalgar. She was loud and noisy on purpose. Of course, it was all a trap, one designed specifically for us champions to, go there and unload all of our fear and anger into the old god's black blood, just like how the Shah fed off our negativity in Pandaria. Now, one of the tools in her box was the Shadow Guard Ethereal, the Void Ethereals who keep on trying to kill us. Now, we assumed that they were all just void-addled maniacs, essentially Xal'atath's slaves, and it seems Xal'atath was confident that they were hers, because when they turned up in patch 11.1, we all assumed they were Team Void, and that meant they were Team Her. And remember, this all happened just after Illyria cracked the Darkheart. That meant that Xal'atath needed the goblins to fix the Darkheart, because the goblins are actually the group who built it in the first place, many thousands of years ago. But Gallywix, in true goblin style, held out. Xal'atath then, of course, put the pressure on, but she was in a bit of a losing position because she did actually need Gallywix's crew to fix up the Darkheart. But then, Phase Thief Azir showed up, and he took the Darkheart straight from Gallywix's hand. Now, Gallywix thought this was a Void Ethereal coming in on Xal'atath's behalf to call in her debt and get the Darkheart back now that it had been fixed. But of course, whenever Xal'atath next saw Gallywix, and he explained that some Ethereal had appeared and taken the Darkheart, well, Xal'atath kind of freaked out. She was pissed. It turns out that no, they're not her slaves. In fact, they were working their own plan the whole time. Fast forward to the end of patch 11.1's Undermine Revolution. A quest called The New Day appears. We do that quest, and we discover that all of this had one more meaning, because as the goblins celebrated their new society, we got a teaser for the future. Given all the details involved, I completely understand people seeing that teaser at the time and kind of thinking, what? What's going on? I thought this was an underground expansion. So I'll explain. That's Phase Thief Azir. It's him standing over Karesh's World Soul. That's the World Soul of the home of the Ethereals. He's got the Darkheart that's been pumped full of all of this dangerous energy, and, very much seems he's about to do something. Let's bring this all together then. We are now very confident that Karesh is the final major patch of the War Within expansion, and in that teaser, we just got a glimpse of who we'll be working with. Not Phase Thief Azir, to be clear, he's a bad guy. No, the people we'll be working with seem to be Venari and this new cartel They clearly have an interest in Karesh, and they're willing to work with Locust Walker. Now, maybe they just want to survive whatever the Shadow Guard's plan is, and after all, survival is what those characters do best. But if the Shadow Guard get what they want, it may mean the end for everyone. Now, there are many open questions, and this is just the stuff we've learned from one quest in a minor patch. Obviously, it will be properly explored later. As an example, how did the brokers escape the destruction of their world? What actually is different about them? How did any of that happen? We're not exactly sure, but it's clear that the natives of Karesh all did different things to survive. Some became the arcane bandage-wrapped traders that we've known for years and called the Ethereals. Some, like the Shadow Guard, went deep into the void trying to fight fire with fire. Locust Walker tells us that they have lost their free will, but it's clear they're working to a plan. Maybe it's theirs, maybe it's a Void Lord's, but for us, their intentions do seem to be bad. An awakened Void World Soul is pretty much bad for everyone. That's what's going to unite loads of characters together. Perhaps even us and Xal'atath, because doesn't really seem like Phase Thief Azir is working to her plan, does it? Then, of course, the brokers, refugees who fled to the Shadowlands. Maybe they died on Karesh, but the fact that they travel the in-between kind of tells us that they perhaps found a way to burst into the Shadowlands, and since then have kept themselves hidden, safe, and over time have become incredibly powerful. These three groups of Kareshi, then, are returning home, and they'll need us to tackle whatever comes next. But what if I told you there's a cherry on top? One that you'll almost certainly be surprised by, but that it will make sense whenever I say it. There's one native of Karesh who has been staring at us this whole time, and it's actually Xal'atath. I'm 99% sure. Locust Walker, of course, already knows who Xal'atath is in a way that was very suspicious. Venari, of course, is telling us that we're betrayed by those closest to us. With Locust Walker and Venari having history, it's not a stretch to say that Xal'atath could have known them as well. And if you just take a look at Xal'atath, you'll notice a lot of curious things. Major design inspirations from the Ethereals. It is honestly spooky once it actually makes sense. And if you want to understand this, to understand why Xal'atath probably is an Ethereal of some sort and may even have caused the doom of her world, check out this video, because it has only got more relevant as time goes on.